My name is Catherine Wells, and I'm 45 years old. For the past 15 years, I've been married to Michael, a 52-year-old structural engineer who works for one of Toronto's largest construction firms. We live in a modest 3-bedroom house in North York with our 2 children, Emma, who's 13, and Jake, who's 10. While Michael climbs the corporate ladder, I've been what people politely call a stay-at-home mom, though anyone who's actually done this job knows there's nothing restful about it. It was a particularly cold February evening in Toronto when everything changed. The temperature had dropped to -20 Celsius, and the wind was howling through the bare maple trees, lining our street. I had spent the entire day managing what felt like a small corporation, driving Jake to his hockey practice at the local arena, attending Emma's parent-teacher conference at her middle school, grocery shopping at Metro, doing 3 loads of laundry, and cleaning the house from top to bottom. By 6 o'clock, I was exhausted but still had dinner to prepare. Michael would be home soon, and he expected his meal ready, not because he was particularly demanding, but because that's how our routine had evolved over the years. I had become the manager of our household, handling everything from bill payments to birthday parties, from doctor appointments to school events. I was standing at the kitchen counter, preparing his favorite meal, herb-crusted salmon with roasted vegetables and wild rice. The kitchen smelled amazing, filled with the aroma of garlic, rosemary, and lemon. I had learned to cook well over the years, not just out of necessity, but because I genuinely enjoyed creating something beautiful and nourishing for my family. Michael walked through the front door at exactly 6:30, as he did every weekday. He hung his winter coat in the hall closet, kicked off his snow boots, and walked into the kitchen where I was plating his dinner. "How was your day?" I asked, as I always did. "Long meeting with the city planners about the new condo project downtown," he replied, loosening his tie. "The bureaucracy in the city is unbelievable. Sometimes I wonder why I even bother trying to build anything worthwhile." I nodded sympathetically while arranging the salmon on his plate. "Well, dinner's ready. I made your favorite." He glanced at the beautifully prepared plate I was setting before him, but instead of appreciation, I saw something else in his expression, a kind of casual dismissal that I'd been noticing more frequently lately. "You know, Catherine," he said, settling into his chair, "I was talking to the guys at work today about what our wives do, and I realized something." I paused, holding the serving spoon. "What's that?" "You're just good for cooking and keeping the house clean." "I mean, that's basically what you do, right? Cook, clean, drive the kids around. It's not like you're contributing anything substantial." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stood frozen, the serving spoon still in my hand, trying to process what he had just said. After 15 years of marriage, after sacrificing my own career aspirations to support his, after managing every aspect of our family life so he could focus on his work, he had reduced me to a maid and a cook. "What did you just say?" I asked quietly. "I'm not being mean, Catherine. I'm just being honest. I bring in the money. I handle the important decisions. I deal with the real world. You just cook and clean. That's your contribution." Emma and Jake were upstairs doing homework, thankfully not witnessing this moment. I looked at Michael, really looked at him, and saw a man who had no idea what I actually did every day. He saw the meals appear on the table, the clothes clean in his closet, the bills paid on time, the children's schedules managed seamlessly, but he thought it all happened by magic. "So that's all I am to you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Don't be dramatic, Catherine. I appreciate what you do, but let's be realistic about what it is. You're not running a company or building infrastructure. You're cooking and cleaning." I set down the serving spoon and walked upstairs to our bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands, trying to understand how I had become so invisible in my own life. When had I stopped being Catherine, the woman who had graduated from the University of Toronto with a degree in business administration, who had dreams of starting her own marketing consultancy, who had been vibrant and ambitious? I had become the woman who made sure everyone else's life ran smoothly, while my own identity disappeared completely. That night, as Michael slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling and made a decision that would change everything. If cooking and cleaning was all I was good for in his eyes, then perhaps it was time to show him what life looked like without those services. But I wasn't just going to stop cooking. I was going to serve him something he definitely wasn't expecting. The next morning, I woke up before dawn, as I had every day for the past 15 years. But instead of starting my usual routine of making coffee and preparing breakfast, I sat in our small home office and opened my laptop. The room was quiet except for the hum of the furnace fighting against the February cold. I had spent most of the night thinking about Michael's words, and they kept echoing in my mind. "You're just good for cooking." The more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just about one hurtful comment. This was about 15 years of my contributions being minimized, dismissed, and taken for granted. I opened a new document and began typing. At the top of the page I wrote, "What Catherine actually does." Then I started listing everything I had done in just the past week. Managed Emma's science fair project, including 3 trips to different stores for supplies and 2 late nights helping her with research. Coordinated Jake's hockey schedule, including carpools with other parents and washing his equipment. Handled all communication with both children's schools, including scheduling parent-teacher conferences and responding to emails from teachers. Managed all household finances, including paying bills, balancing accounts, and planning the budget. Organized and completed all grocery shopping, meal planning, and cooking. Managed all household maintenance, including scheduling repairs, cleaning, and organizing. Coordinated all medical appointments for the family and maintained health records. Planned and executed Emma's 13th birthday party for 25 children. Handled all administrative tasks for Michael's work events, including RSVPs and outfit selection. The list went on for 3 pages. As I typed, I realized something that made my stomach turn. I had been working as Michael's personal assistant, house manager, chef, childcare coordinator, and financial administrator for 15 years, and he saw it as just cooking and cleaning. I closed the laptop and made coffee, but my mind was racing. If Michael truly believed that cooking and cleaning were my only contributions, then he would surely be fine managing everything else himself. After all, according to him, the real work was what he did at the office. I made breakfast for Emma and Jake, as always. They chattered about their school day while eating their pancakes, and I realized how much I would miss these morning conversations if things changed. But I also realized that I had been slowly disappearing, and my children were growing up watching their mother be treated as hired help rather than as an equal partner. After dropping the kids at school, I drove to downtown Toronto and parked near the financial district. I had an appointment I had made the previous night, after lying awake planning my next steps. The office of Patricia Chun, family lawyer, was located on the 32nd floor of a gleaming tower on Bay Street. Patricia was a friend from university who had built a successful practice specializing in family law. When I called her the night before, she had immediately made time for me. "Catherine, it's so good to see you," Patricia said, embracing me warmly. "Though I have to say, I'm concerned about why you're here." I explained the situation to her, including Michael's comment and my growing realization that I had been undervalued for years. Patricia listened without interruption, occasionally taking notes. "Catherine, what you're describing is unfortunately very common," she said when I finished. Many women, in long-term marriages, find themselves in similar situations. The question is, what do you want to do about it? "I want to show him what his life looks like without my contributions," I said. "All of them. Not just the cooking and cleaning, but everything I do that he doesn't even notice." Patricia nodded. "Are you thinking about separation?" "I'm thinking about divorce," I said, surprised by how clearly the words came out. "I've been thinking about it all night, and I realize that if he sees me as just a cook and cleaner after 15 years of marriage, then he doesn't actually see me at all." We spent the next 2 hours going through my options. Patricia explained the divorce process in Ontario, including property division, spousal support, and child custody arrangements. She also helped me understand what I would be entitled to, given that I had sacrificed my career to support Michael's. "The court recognizes the value of domestic contributions," Patricia explained. "What you've been doing for 15 years is not just cooking and cleaning. It's been enabling Michael's career success by managing every other aspect of your family's life." I left Patricia's office with a folder full of information and a clear plan. I would document everything I did for the next 2 weeks, then present Michael with a choice: acknowledge and appreciate my contributions as an equal partner, or discover what life looked like without them. But first, I had a special dinner to prepare. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a detective in my own life. I documented everything I did, every task I completed, every problem I solved. I used my phone to take photos and videos, kept detailed time logs, and saved every email, text message, and receipt related to managing our household. The results were staggering. In 14 days, I had prepared 28 meals and packed 42 lunches, driven a total of 372 kilometers for family-related activities, spent 14 hours on homework supervision and educational support, managed 12 different appointments and commitments, handled 37 phone calls and 63 emails related to household management, spent 28 hours on cleaning and organizing, completed 11 loads of laundry, managed the family budget and paid all bills, organized Emma's sleepover for 6 friends, coordinated Jake's hockey tournament, including hotel booking and meal planning, handled a plumbing emergency while Michael was at work, managed a school crisis when Emma was accused of cheating, which required 3 phone calls and 1 in-person meeting to resolve. I calculated that I was working an average of 12 hours per day, 7 days a week. If I were being paid minimum wage in Ontario, which was $15 per hour at the time, my contributions would be worth over $65,000 annually. If I were being paid what a professional household manager, personal chef, and childcare coordinator would earn, my contributions would be worth over $90,000 per year. Meanwhile, Michael continued to come home each evening, eat the dinner I prepared, and make comments about having a relaxing day, while I dealt with the easy stuff at home. The breaking point came on a particularly chaotic Thursday. Jake had woken up with a fever and couldn't go to school. Emma had forgotten about a major science project that was due that day. The washing machine had broken down, flooding the laundry room. The grocery store had called to say they couldn't deliver our weekly order because of a system error. I spent the morning taking Jake to the doctor, then rushing to 3 different stores to find supplies for Emma's project. I managed to get a repair technician to come fix the washing machine, cleaned up the flood, and somehow still had dinner ready when Michael came home. He walked in, stepped over the pile of wet towels I hadn't yet had time to deal with, and said, "Why is the house such a mess? What did you do all day?" That's when I knew it was time. I spent that evening preparing the most elaborate meal I had ever made. I prepared his favorite appetizer, smoked salmon canapes with cream cheese and capers. For the main course, I made beef Wellington with roasted root vegetables and a red wine reduction. For dessert, I prepared individual chocolate lava cakes with vanilla bean ice cream. The presentation was perfect. The dining room table was set with our wedding china, silver candlesticks, and a bottle of expensive wine I had been saving for a special occasion. Michael was impressed. "Wow, Catherine, this is incredible. What's the occasion?" "I wanted to show you how much I appreciate everything you do," I said, pouring him a glass of wine. "I've been thinking about what you said the other day, about how I'm just good for cooking, and I realize you're absolutely right." He beamed, clearly pleased with what he thought was my acceptance of his assessment. "I'm so glad you understand," he said, cutting into the beef Wellington. "I mean, we all have our roles, right? You're really good at the domestic stuff, and I handle the important things." "Exactly," I said, reaching into the folder beside my chair. "And speaking of important things, I have something for you." I placed a manila envelope next to his plate. "What's this?" he asked, not looking up from his meal. "Your divorce papers," I said calmly. "I thought since you believe I'm only good for cooking, you might want to see what your life looks like without my services." He dropped his fork. "What?" "I filed for divorce today, Michael. I've spent the last 2 weeks documenting everything I actually do in this household, and I've realized that you're right. I am just good for cooking. I'm also good for cleaning, organizing, managing, coordinating, budgeting, planning, driving, scheduling, problem-solving, and about 50 other things that you don't even notice." "Catherine, you can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. I've been subsidizing your career and your life for 15 years, and you see me as hired help. So I'm giving you exactly what you seem to want, a chance to handle the easy stuff yourself." The rest of the evening was a blur of arguments, tears, and realizations. But I had made my decision, and for the first time in 15 years, I felt like I was fighting for my own worth. The 6 months that followed were the most challenging and transformative of my life. Michael's initial reaction was disbelief, followed by anger, then desperate attempts at reconciliation. But the damage was done, not just from that one comment, but from years of being taken for granted. The divorce proceedings revealed just how much I had been contributing to our household. When Michael had to hire a housekeeper, a meal delivery service, and a personal assistant to handle the children's schedules, he quickly realized that my just cooking and cleaning had been worth far more than he had ever imagined. "I had no idea how much you actually did," he said during one of our mediation sessions. "I thought you just... I don't know, I thought it was easy." "It wasn't easy, Michael. It was work. It was important work. And when you reduced it to just cooking and cleaning, you reduced me to nothing." The financial settlement reflected the reality of my contributions. After 15 years of enabling Michael's career while sacrificing my own, I was entitled to significant spousal support and half of our marital assets. The court recognized that my domestic contributions had been essential to our family's success. But more importantly, I had rediscovered myself. During the separation, I enrolled in a part-time marketing program at George Brown College. I had always been interested in digital marketing, and I quickly discovered that my years of managing schedules, coordinating events, and solving problems had given me valuable skills that transferred beautifully to the business world. Emma and Jake adjusted to the new arrangement better than I had expected. We had honest conversations about what had happened, and I made sure they understood that both their father and I loved them, even though our marriage hadn't worked out. "Mom, are you happier now?" Emma asked one evening as we cooked dinner together in our new apartment. "I'm learning to be happy again," I told her. "I'm learning who I am when I'm not just trying to make everyone else's life easier." The most surprising development came 8 months after I filed for divorce. I had started a small consulting business, helping other women develop marketing strategies for their small businesses. Word spread quickly through my network, and I found myself busier than I had ever been. But this time, I was building something for myself. One of my clients was a woman named Sarah who had recently left her own marriage after years of being undervalued. As I helped her develop a business plan for her catering company, I realized that my experience had given me a unique perspective on helping women rebuild their lives. "You saved my life," Sarah told me after successfully launching her business. Not just with the marketing help, but by showing me that it's possible to start over and build something meaningful. A year after serving Michael those divorce papers alongside his beef Wellington, I was invited to speak at a women's empowerment conference in Toronto. The topic was recognizing your worth, from invisible to invaluable. Standing on that stage, looking out at hundreds of women who had their own stories of being undervalued and overlooked, I felt a sense of purpose I had never experienced before. "I spent 15 years being told I was just good for cooking," I told the audience. "And you know what? I was good for cooking. I was also good for managing, organizing, problem-solving, budgeting, coordinating, and about 50 other things that kept my family's life running smoothly. But most importantly, I was good for much more than any of that." The applause was thunderous, but what moved me most were the women who approached me afterward, sharing their own stories of being reduced to their domestic contributions while their other talents and dreams were ignored. Today, 2 years after that February evening when Michael made his thoughtless comment, I run a successful consulting business that helps women transition from traditional domestic roles to entrepreneurship. I've helped over 200 women start their own businesses, and I've discovered that my years of managing a household gave me exactly the skills needed to help others build their dreams. Emma and Jake split their time between Michael's house and mine, and they've learned valuable lessons about respect, equality, and the importance of recognizing everyone's contributions. Emma recently told me she wants to study business in university, and Jake has started helping with cooking and cleaning without being asked. Michael and I have developed a cordial co-parenting relationship. He's learned to manage his own household responsibilities, and I think he's gained a new appreciation for what I did all those years. He's even started dating someone, a successful lawyer who made it clear from the beginning that she wasn't looking to be anyone's housekeeper. "I'm sorry," he said to me recently when we were discussing Jake's hockey schedule. "I'm sorry I didn't see you. I'm sorry I didn't value what you did." "I'm sorry too," I replied. "I'm sorry I let myself become invisible." The most important lesson I learned is that when someone shows you who they are, you should believe them. Michael showed me that he saw me as hired help, not as a partner. But I also learned that I had the power to change that narrative. I was never just good for cooking. I was good for cooking and managing and organizing and problem solving and building and creating and dreaming. I was good for everything I set my mind to do. And the best part, I'm still an excellent cook. But now when I prepare a meal, it's because I choose to, not because it's expected of me. And when I set the table, I make sure there's always a place for me at it. Sometimes the most important meal you can serve is a serving of reality. And sometimes the most nourishing thing you can do is feed your own dreams instead of everyone else's expectations. I'm 47 now, and I'm just getting started.